Legion of Superheroes should be a big deal again, and DC should make it happen. Hi, I'm Jordan the Nerd of Gold, and I think there's always room for a title, whether that's a comic book, a TV show, or a movie, that brings about a future that we can all look forward to. Instead of a post-apocalypse, we have to survive a future in which we are thriving and still fighting for the good fight there, because we realize that even if technology advances and solves certain problems, it doesn't solve every problem, because humans are dramatic and messy, and we're still going to find ways to struggle as we try to achieve utopia. And I think the Legion of Superheroes is the title that can do that for DC Comics. It's about these young, brave people who are fighting for a better future, even as the power around them by the adults to solve all the problems exists. They just don't do it because they're in conflict with each other. And it's of these teens to show the future on what to do. And I think that's an incredible premise right there. And I would love to see DC Comics bring the Legion of Superheroes back. And my idea right now is that there would basically be two main titles. One is a title where we get the big high concept sci-fi kind of plot heavy book going on there, although I would never want to describe a book as plot heavy, just because that makes it sound like we're just going through lore and not character, but that's where like the big events happen in that one title. And then in the other title, we get some of the smaller stuff that's happening in between, and focusing on the characters themselves and some of the goofy stuff that they get up to in between missions. So I think that would be kind of the like fun, light-hearted book that happens while it parallels the main events that are happening in the first book. My ideal team to put on this right now would be Dennis Camp writing the main book, and Daniel Sampere on art, writing the big sci-fi stuff, giving us a bunch of cool action, and then Matt Fraction and Dan Mora over in the other book, because I feel like Dan Mora has a lot of kinetic energy in the way he draws things, and I think it would be really cool to see him show this bright new future and what these characters are doing kind of in their downtime while they still have to do smaller missions there. And I think Matt Fraction does really great with smaller casts, so I think he would do really well just showing what the Legion is doing in these smaller moments there, and showing their dynamics as characters in a way that Dennis doesn't necessarily get to in that book, because we have to focus on the main stuff that's happening in there. Not to say that Dennis isn't going to do that in his title, just to say, but like there's different focuses on in these books. And I would even throw in a third mini-series there, where we get different writers and artists focusing on individual characters during the events of both of these books. So it can be like the events of Title 2 from this character's perspective, or Title 1 from this character's perspective, or maybe it's just like different adventures that are happening in the meantime when they're not out in the field, and we get to explore what their family and friends are like beyond the Legion themselves. I think that would be a really fun anthology series to have going on there at the same time. But I really think we need a future title that is something worth fighting for, showing that there is an optimism that is fundamental to the superhero genre. But let me know, would you read these Legion titles?